In Baz Luhrmann's film The Great Gatsby, Gatsby's father's entrance recalls a series of his son's past events that led to his death. His life began to end when he started his career in the military and received the honor of being called Major. As his life continued on, he acquired great wealth, which he assumed would get Daisy back into his life. A breeze forcing the white drapes to flaunt in the wind portrays the remembrance of Daisy. With all of these contributions, Luhrmann used color, knocking, and images of affluence to represent Gatsby's road to death.
What do you want?
In the beginning of the scene, Gatsby's father knocks on the door. The knocking seems to have a repetitious sound like beating drums. Assumed by the reader, the drums exemplify his past days when he was a soldier in World War I. The war made him leave Daisy because he was sent to study at Oxford with a bunch of other soldiers of the infantry. Daisy leaving him left him heartbroken, and it forced him to have a life of immense sorrow. He also will spend his life accumulating money through illegal practices, which he believes will bring Daisy back. Gatsby wanted Daisy to wait for him, but she could not wait any longer for him. Therefore, she goes on to marry an atrocious husband, Tom. These series of events led to his death because Daisy was partially the reason he was shot, due to the fact she hit Myrtle. Since Tom despised Gatsby, he snitched on Gatsby by telling Wilson that it was Gatsby who hit Myrtle. In conclusion, Gatsby was blamed for the murder, which later led to him being shot. Luhrmann's choice to include this part led the person viewing the movie to only assume this pointed directly to when he first had problems with Daisy. Everything was downhill from there for Jay Gatsby, especially his love life. The scene of Gatsby's wake portrays major affluence when his father comes into the house. A bulky chandelier, magnificent pipe organ, and many other dainty objects represent his great power and affluent nature. As mentioned earlier, Gatsby acquired his money by illegal practices, of which we can only assume he was involved in. Many of his friends, including Wolfsheim, allow the reader to come to this conclusion. Wealth made Jay Gatsby envisage that he could get Daisy back because she merely married Tom for his money. The setting around his casket allowed the audience to backtrack to when he was first going to see Daisy again. He surrounded her with flowers to make her realize how much money he actually had. In the big picture, Jay's mansion is the biggest display of his wealth. The prime suspect that led him to this death surrounded him entirely. As the scene comes to a close, shutters and windows are wide open with a wild breeze flowing through. On those windows are white drapes, which relate directly back to Daisy. Referring to what was stated earlier, Daisy is what led to his death. She as well wore white throughout the film. The color white surrounds the scene and other forms of objects. One of the objects was the candle. They were white, and candles typically represent afterlife, especially when lit. The color white is prominent because it spells Daisy all over it. Luhrmann tends to use Daisy as a prime leader on Gatsby's road to death. The breeze coming through the windows exemplifies his presence still in the house. Also in his casket, Gatsby was dressed in a dashing white suit. That represents his purity when he is dead. Luhrmann basically is pointing this out to the viewers and putting the whole blame of this death on Daisy. Thus, Jay Gatsby forced it upon himself by getting himself involved with the wrong people and especially the love of his life, whom was now married. Luhrmann's main focus in the scene was to explain the theories and origins of Jay Gatsby's death. He tends to lean more to the side of Daisy being at fault, with Gatsby being innocent. The first part of his road to death was World War I. He lost the love of his life, Daisy, because he was forced to go back to Oxford. It bites him in the back because she then moves on to Tom, which is an abusive husband. So therefore he is surrounded by white, which is the color of Daisy, and lying in his casket, dead. Luhrmann's cunning sounds and use of color eludes the viewer to recall many of Jay Gatsby's life events that led to his casualty.